Hello everyone, it's Graham Coath with another My Music. We're a little bit early, but that's just to keep you on the edge of your seat, keeping you fresh, because it's Friday, the best day of the week, well, so some people say. Today I'm going to be speaking to Chris Matthews all about his new band. But first, we are going to watch this lovely video from the wonderful Analog Trash. And of course, if you want to get involved with Analog Trash, find out about all of the wonderful bands that are on the Analog Trash label, you can go to analogtrash.com. Thank you very much. Chris, thanks for joining me. Live from where?
Live from Montclair, New Jersey.
Yeah, and a university room, is that right? Or
This is my office at Montclair State University in the anthropology department, where I am the
which is
head.
Fantastic. Yeah. What led you into anthropology? Just before we get started on the music side of things.
Oh, sure. Actually, there's a fairly large music community in anthropology. I think it's a lot of sort of self-described nonconformists who are like, I'm not going to do the straight thing. I'm going to figure something else out. And anthropology is go learn about how other people live or lived in the in the past and make a job out of doing that kind of research. And basically we all see ourselves as providing counter narratives or challenging critiques of what we all think we already know. So it seemed like a natural fit. So.
Well, yeah. And I was going to ask you then, how much of that then seeps through into the music?
Oh, a lot, I think. The music and the lyrics and all that. Definitely my lyrics reflect a lot of where my mind is in my scholarship and where I teach, and the music, I always try to kind of push it. So, I'm usually thinking like, that's too straight. Got to mess it up a little bit. So maybe there's an overlap there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are you cool with the kids then?
I less and less. There was a day back when they would discover me. They were like, to come up with their phone and show me a video of me playing music in the past and say, is this you? And that hasn't happened in a while, but the new band I think is making a little bit of an inroad. So I've had them show up at our performances. So
that's really cool. Really cool. I remember when I went to university up in Sunderland, but our videographer lecturer was in the punk band Penetration.
Oh wow! Well,
yeah, which was really cool, and it was like, the same sort of thing. Really, it was like, hey, do you know he used to be in Penetration? No, man. It's like, yeah, and it's like, could you then go down like we had Volume Records in Sunderland. It was like, go down Volume Records, pick out a Penetration album, and then see if you could get him to sign it at the front. But it kind of felt weird at the same time. Yeah. But it was just like, that's cool, and it was cool that he was in a cool band as well. Right. The last thing you.
No, it's true. I have had them come up and say like, your band's a lot better than I expected. Because I think they come without having listened, and they're expecting, I don't know, probably a cover band or something like lame.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, is that a compliment or
something like really cheesy out of the 70s with
exactly.
Like the hair down here and the mic, one of those long mics. You remember, like people had those long mics when they used to sing. Oh man, all of that. Where's your musical heritage come from? What sort of brought you to the kind of music that you make?
Well, I think I was in the band Shudder To Think back in the 80s and early 90s, and Prior to that, I was in a couple other bands, but they weren't, I didn't really know about punk rock that like in DC. I thought, I knew about it on the global stage, but not so much locally. And until I learned about it, I was more of a new wave kind of guy. Like, so I loved XTC and the Police and the Clash, and it was sort of like that turn of the 80s kind of movement of new, what was new to me then, music. And that really took me out of kind of the classic rock radio stuff, which is still probably there, I'm still a big Hendrix fan just as a guitar player. It's just, I just can't, I never have gotten tired of that. And, but beyond that, so I moved into the new wave stuff and then discovered there's a punk scene in DC. Who knew? Everyone knew. But I ended up working in a new place where I met Stuart Hill, who was the bass player in Shudder To Think. And he was like, you got to come, you and your band should come to a show with us. And me and my band, which is basically a new wave band, came and did a show. I was like, I'm going to move in that direction. So I joined Stu's band, and then that morphed into Shudder To Think. But that's the kind of thing. And then so diving into new music, learning what's going on there, and kind of trying to do our best to mimic that given our capacities. We were never really, it was a hardcore scene. So, and we were never a hardcore band. We never could really pull it off.
Did that lead to some awkward moments playing live at all ever?
Oh, sure. All the time. No one ever liked us. Because that's a very big expectation. It's a hardcore show. They've come to, set up a mosh pit and get rowdy and get loud, and they want the backbeat to be there fueling all that. And,
oh man, do you know what? I've been there, seen it, done it, and it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? It's you kind of know from, if you're like last on the bill and there's like 3 or 4 bands, you kind of know from 2 or 3 songs into the first band, and you look at the other bands and you think, we need to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
And more than once we had to, because the police were there.
Okay.
And not the Stuart Copeland type of police, but we're talking the real, the cops.
Yeah.
Because everyone, as you say, everyone was there for like da, 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 da. And then you come up and you start like playing some indie kind of slightly more sedate, more melody type of tune, and people are like, "What?
Yes.
What's this about?" Yeah.
Exactly. It happens all the time. So I'm glad you have the sense of that. But that's okay. We did what we did, and it didn't happen at home a lot. The DC scene was very broad, and we never felt like we were quite fitting in. But then all of a sudden, people came to hear us, and then eventually, we always played with a bunch of bands, hardcore bands from Discord, who are sort of they're not going to kick your ass hardcore. It's hardcore music, but it's got a message and it's got a feel. And those musicians kind of brought us in. They were like, we want you to open for us. We like what you're doing. And eventually that merged into joining Discord and making the music we wanted to make, which was, a real lucky break for us. Changed everything as far as music, being musicians. And then certainly kind of allowed us to be ourselves without having to fight against that tide of misplaced expectations of what kind of band we were.
Yeah. What sort of era was that really started to kick in?
That was kind of around 87, 88. So we were playing with like Marginal Man and Scream and stuff like that, who were established. And we were kind of the same moment that like Fugazi, obviously the biggest band, really kind of they were just kind of pulling it together as we were already playing, and then like other bands like Jawbox, and I'm not even sure. So it wasn't like the early period with the Minor Threat, or sort of the next one with Right to Spring and Dag Nasty. We're kind of.
I think it's quite important what was happening with record labels at that time as well. Do you think that was quite important to how that developed? Because you were having quite a lot of the right type of record label come about at that time.
Yeah. I mean, Discord is just unique. It's just them, just the guys in the bands, and they never changed, and would never have changed whether the Fugazi ever emerged and became what it did or not. And so it was really not that. I mean, I always wanted to be on Discord, and we started on literally the Little Sisters label. It was Ian's little sister Amanda who started Sandwich. That was the first, and they put out a band. They put out us. They put out a band called Lunch Meat, which became Soulside, and they also did Swizz, which also joined Discord later. So it was kind of like, when you look at it from the outside, it was kind of a lot of the same people playing in lots of different bands and same families in certain places. And that wasn't us. Like, I never played in another band that was a Discord band, and neither did anyone else. So we've just always felt like, oh, they're letting us in. Let's go.
Yeah. We went into the incestuous nature of what was going on.
We were not into it. It just never came around to it. I wasn't,
right.
I could only do one band. So that was the band I was in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What were those early fans like in terms of, what they were wanting from the music?
Well, I think once we got a space where we didn't have to be a hardcore band, there was a lot of, I think we did things that nobody else in town was doing. There were other bands that were a little bit more kind of classic rock, or kind of a little bit more, kind of emerging in a post-punk thing, like there, and something, odd, like, I don't know if you know Nation of Ulysses. They were very unusual. And they were just amazing live, because it was like 6 guys jumping around with more energy than I've ever had in my life, even though we thought we had a lot of energy. But I think we were just doing, we were able to do what we did, and people started listening. And our singer, Craig Wedren, the talent in the band, could really
in the band.
Well, he's.
I like that.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, he's an exceptional musician in every way. So he was, we were trying to put songs together, and then all of a sudden we saw them singing with us, and then singing with him. That's why I mostly brought him up, because I wasn't singing, but you can't air guitar very well at a show. So it was. I think, it just kind of grew. And I think the scene was never really an intense hardcore scene that wasn't welcoming to all sorts of different people, especially women. We had a lot of space to be part of it. They were organizing it. There were bands. We were playing around the time Fire Party, which was an all women band, was out and recording. And I think there was some attraction to us from that kind of, we don't want a hardcore band, we just want a punk scene with cool bands. And so it kind of felt great. It was like, we're doing what we're doing, and it seems to be being received. And like, it just, I think, and thinking back now, it was a struggle to get there for 2 reasons. One, we just weren't very good when we started. We were like trying the best we could, but we weren't, who knows. And then I think we sort of molded and formed, and by the time we were releasing records on Discord, we really were a band. We had a sound. We knew what we were doing. We knew, like, if you came up with a song idea, that one's going to work, that one's not. And so
did that make the early recording process relatively straightforward or not?
Well, it was always relatively straightforward, because we never had a lot of money to record, so it was always really quick. I've had people ask that before. It's like, how did you do this, that? We're like, we were in there and we were out of there as soon as we could, because we were paying for every second of it. There's no pot of money in punk rock to pay for the music at that level. So, but yeah, we did get better, and we were able to actually record with some competence. Whereas when we started, I don't know what we were doing, but it was always a lot of fun. And I think we were just still too young and green to know this is something real, but who knows?
What's it like coming back now then?
It's kind of amazing. Like, I never planned on this. Obviously, I left music because I kind of had to make a choice. I couldn't stay in Shudder To Think any longer because I just didn't have essentially confidence that it would be a reasonable career. And I was like, well, I'm going to go pick anthropology, which is what I majored in college, because I left the band after I finished college and got into a good graduate program and have found relative success in the sense that I have a good job. I'm a full professor. I have tenure. I can pay my bills. You know, I'm married with 2 kids and have a house, all the dreams. Right. And so I've been busy, and I kept all my instruments. I mean, I kept 2 guitars. I kept my Marshall head. So I kind of refused to just walk away entirely. And
where did they ever come out at all? I mean, when did they come out?
Hardly ever. And no. Then what happened is, once I got settled in Montclair, my kids got a little bit older. It's actually an interesting story. There's an organization in town. It's just a group of people who call themselves Parents Who Rock. And it was kind of organized by a woman who saw a lot of like people who used to be in bands or used to just have music in their lives. And then they had kids and that all went away. And she's kind of an incredible person just to say, like, why don't we just do something once a year, give people a chance. It was always like a fundraiser, and it was always just a set of
almost
covers.
Like School of Rock for adults.
Yeah, a little bit. And that actually comes in because it was at a Parents Who Rock event that I was scheduled to play with someone under my own name. And Kevin March, who I started Quiz Show with, was the drummer of Shudder To Think on 50,000 BC, and then toured with them, as well as was in the Dambuilders, and is now the drummer in Guided by Voices. He also lives in town, but he was sort of in between everything. And he was going to be playing with another group at a Parents Who Rock event. And he reached out and said, "Are you that Chris Matthews?" You know, having a name like mine. And I was like, "I am. And I recognize your name." He had actually had played 2 songs together in a show in New York when Shudder To Think was on a reunion tour.
Wow.
And we just met and we started playing and started writing music. And I'm doing the work of playing and writing songs, but he gets the credit for being like, "We need you back. We need you in this. We need you making music again. There was something about what you did and what you're still doing," because he's hearing it, that has to happen. And so he's just was a real, you know, it was the influence. I probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for Kevin showing up when and where he did. And then the funny thing is, Kevin is, besides all the other musical things, he's the general manager of our School of Rock in Montclair. So we were kind of joking a second ago, but it is, that is, and that's where we practice on, like, you know, at 9 a.m. because it's before the School of Rock opens, and he has to sit down and do business all day.
Yeah. Everybody else is off doing sort of breakfast networking meetings or whatever, and you're
they're all at work. Yeah, and I have a flexible schedule. I have to teach when I have to teach, and meetings happen when they happen. But I just kind of block off that early mornings. Now it's early Wednesdays, and when we could get together, we do. So
that's amazing. That's it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So now that the brain is kind of switched back into music mode to some extent, but obviously it's now sort of, you know, traversing between anthropology and that. Do you ever have to stop in the middle of a lecture and go, "Oh, hold on a minute"? Do you know what? You've just given me a great idea.
It hasn't happened yet. I'm too nervous.
It will.
Yeah, eventually it will. But
someone will come out with something in class and you'll go, "God, do you know what? I've got to put that in a song."
Scribble it down.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it's lovely it's interesting because actually doing this, there's been a number of bands that I've spoken to who have had this kind of, you know, or having a renaissance, if you like. They parked their, you know, early musical career for quite some time, and then through chance, circumstance, whatever, something's enabled them to bring it back. And it's and typically when I talk to those people as well, there's also a feeling that I now have something to talk about at this time of life as well. Do you feel that?
Like, I feel to talk about, I mean, I guess I'm more confident as an adult. So
yeah, right.
I'm not
you
so
are
worried
an adult.
about,
you are an adult now.
Yes, yes. But sometimes you're an adult a long time before you're comfortable being an adult.
Sure.
Which basically means you just don't care. You're like, this is what you're getting. It's not, I can't imagine what you want and hope to live up to it. So let's just start with that. But and I feel like, as far as like how that translates into the music, it's just sort of interesting how natural it was to come back and start playing. I play as well as I ever did, maybe better. I don't know why that is. I've wondered. I think it's just I'm more confident, and I'm not trying to do. I think in the past, Craig has always described Shudder To Think as we were always trying to do just more than we could. Yeah. And so it was always.
Do you put too much expectation on yourself in the past?
Well, no, it wasn't that. We were actually just trying to play things that we probably weren't quite good enough to play, or put songs together we're really not quite fully thought out and all that. And I feel like now I've got a bigger sense of the picture, and I get to play with really. I mean, Kevin's an astounding musician, so like I don't have to worry about anything I throw. He adds the drum pieces, and and I play with other people now because of his commitments and write with other people. But all of them are just pros, and I always feel like I'm the one who doesn't fit here, but they want to play with me, and I'm writing the song, so there must be something to it, right? I imagine they could play with other people if it wasn't any good. And so there's something going on there that just feels good, and I love doing it, and it does fit into my kind of the story I tell about myself. Like, I always was a musician, and I just kind of stopped for a while now, as opposed to I used to do that. Now I'm doing it again.
Just explain to everyone who hasn't heard Quiz Show yet, where did the name come from?
The name came from a long and trying effort to find a name, because we didn't really need one. We weren't going to ever play out. And then we started recording, and we wanted to release the music, because in the 25 years that I didn't play, as you know, everything changed. Now you can put out your own music, and the fact that you're on Spotify just be paid the right bills. And, it's not so exclusive anymore, which is great. But learning that, and so we needed a name, and so I came up with a million possible names. Nobody liked them, and this one somehow it clicked, and I think we liked the sound of it, the Q sound, the Z sound, and then there's this great Pete Seeger song called Quiz Show, which was about the kind of quiz show controversy and giving the answers away to the contestants who are on a TV show, so they'd become keep winning and keep people watching. And it's a story actually that the lyrics he tells them before he plays the song in a recording I heard were given to him by like a guy, and who said, I think that's how Seeger worked. He's like, if you got a song, give it to me and maybe I can figure out how to play it. And this one was just kind of a really good poke at at commercial capitalism. Like, we see what you're doing. So I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. So that all fit together.
I have to say that the highlight for me is the drum sound at the beginning of Dime a Dozen. That's lovely.
Oh, good.
That's just a beautiful thing. It's just so solid there, and then that vocal coming in. I mean, you almost sound more Pixies than the Pixies do now on that song. Which isn't hard. But in terms of sort of other kind of contemporaries, are there sort of people that you feel that you're sort of landscaping into with some of the sounds on this album?
Well, certainly the Pixies are a major influence, and I think when Kevin came up with that drum beat, the reason we started with it, he was like, I want to do this Pixies thing. So let me just start it. So you got it right. One of my favorite bands is Built to Spill. And I really just a couple of albums from the 90s I just love, and I still love. And I've been told that people can hear that in what I'm writing. It's just not. It's not like, oh, well, let me see if I can sound like that. It just kind of comes through. I'm, other parts. It's always '90s things like Sonic Youth and Fire Hose and of course Fugazi. That stuff is all still there. And as far, I'm not a huge follower of new music. I listen to it, but now we have so much control over what we listen to. It's crazy. It's easy to never listen to anything new. My kids don't listen to music that bleeds into my soul. Like my daughter is a big BTS and K-pop fan, which I think is wonderful, but I don't hear that in my music. So the fact that she's playing it in her room and I'm 2 rooms away trying to do something, I don't know. And I do think like I'm still writing Shudder To Think songs,
Yeah.
It's what I did. And this is just, it's not on purpose, but like, I think when I say write something, and it always starts with me on a guitar, I like it because it's still, it's flipping a switch that was set up in 1986,
This is a real album as well, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that it is a real album. I mean, I love listening. Other contemporary bands that have been there for a while, Yola Tango and Broken Social Scene, etc. I love putting the same with this album. I love putting these on as albums and listening to the whole album. I'm not sure how many young people listen to whole albums these days.
Oh God, no. Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. But for me, it works as a whole. It works as a whole piece,
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah. There's something that in the music itself. Mm-hmm. There's a story in there that you feel like you're going through an emotional response to it. Regardless of whether each individual song is telling its own story. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing to achieve, I feel, with a piece of work. And it's not what necessarily the modern audience want to have. Yeah. Because we now dip into like 20 seconds of this, and it's like, I had enough of that now.
Yeah.
Onto the next thing. Yeah. But I'm hoping. What I'm hoping is that actually, and why I think it's really important that people like yourself are making these albums now, is because I think we'll push against that. Yeah. Now this brings the anthropology back into it. But okay. What's your feeling on that? My view is that slowly but surely we kind of, as much as we push kind of technology and short attention span and everything else, mankind kind of pushes back against that, and we want the tactile, and we want, the experience, and we want everything else, because ultimately we could live in a universe where Chat GPT or something else just does everything for us, right? Okay?
Right, completely, yeah. And it would be exactly what you're afraid of. It would be the soulless, like machine-made, fully, almost rubbish. Entirely. We're obviously panicking in academia about Chat GPT, but I'm not. I just don't have any worries that my students are going to try and. They might, but there's a possibility that. For one, I don't teach kind of the classics, so it's not there. Like as soon as it came out, it was right at the beginning of the semester. So I plugged in like possible essay questions, and it got them all wrong because it doesn't know my material. It's too specific. And it's my job is that you're going to read this and then you're going to extract from it. And ChatGPT can only just read it or give you a prompt that's unextracted. It's just compiled. So I agree that that's dehumanizing. And perhaps the kind of scanning through media and scanning through that. I don't know. Think of it. It popped in my mind just now. Like, but people love to, binge watch TV shows. And isn't that really comparable to an album? And more so because it really is a continuous story. Whereas an album, the songs may have nothing to do with each other. It's just the songs that came out at the moment. But like if there's something maybe that is a parallel, and that's what people want. They want a deep connection. They want to really sit into something, fall into something, and let it.
Well, I think people do want that. Yeah. I think what's happened is that the curators have curated something in very short form, and therefore people assume that that's the way that they have to absorb something. And actually that's what I find when I do talk to. I mean, we have had a lot of younger musicians on this program as well who have clearly discovered music, and what all of them will have said is, that's how I listened to music. I picked it up on this, that, and the other, and I was hearing this, but then somebody played me an album one day, and it kind of changed my life. I suddenly sat and listened, and realized there was a different way to absorb this information, and it was like it was for all of us at one point,
right? Exactly,
but even more so.
Yeah, just sit and listen to it, because that was the whole point of loving music, is you can hear music on the radio, you can hear the songs, but once you have like a thing, for one thing, we don't have things anymore. There's no albums, there's no CDs. I mean, I think you can, but it's you don't need to. So you've lost that tactile kind of physical.
The physical sales of everything are going back up.
Yeah. So maybe there's something going on, and people. My daughter wants a turntable. I'm like, really? you want to play vinyl? I'm like, great, good. But I think holding on to it. I'm having like physical graffiti in mind, like, because I remember having that double album, and you want to sit and listen to the whole thing because you want to just sit with it. That's what we've lost, or that's what's missing. Maybe we get it back, is that chance to just sit with this kind of work. And because it's so engaging. People love music. I mean, that hasn't changed. People want music. They'll go to concerts. They'll pack arenas, and I assume they're there to feel the bass drum and the volume and watch the spectacle. And the same thing in a small club where it's always too loud,
Yeah, unless they are just there to get the whole thing on their phone, in which case there's no hope.
I agree.
Humanity.
I agree.
There's absolutely no hope for humanity.
Hopefully the live thing is what saves it, and then they can feel like, I just need you need a good set of speakers. Get it out of the earbud, that other thing too.
I've been to see some great bands in the last year or so where actually someone's come out just before the band and said, now, come on, what are you actually here for, the music or to get this on your phone? And they've said, turn your phones off, no phones out, nobody wants that. And it's been great. Nobody's had a phone out, and it's, I think sometimes we just have to be told, it's almost like naughty school children as humans. Have you actually thought about what your behavior is?
Right.
Have you actually thought about, the fact that why do you need to tell the rest of the world, right, this is the experience that I'm having? Why do you need to do it? Why not keep it precious? Why not actually go, I was, like in the good old days before phones or whatever, when people used to make up the stories. I was at that concert, and when you added them all up, they couldn't possibly all have been at that concert, because they were, it was a concert where there were only 100 people, but there's 100,000 people telling you that they were at that concert. But that was great.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It becomes a modern myth. That then became a modern mythology.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You're an anthropologist. Look at you.
Oh yeah, I've read baths and stuff like that. So I think it's really great that you're making this kind of music again now, and I think it's fantastic. I think if anybody hasn't listened, they now need to go and listen. Quiz show.
Yeah.
Tell people where can they go and listen to the music? Where's the best place?
Well, the best place is Bandcamp.
I think so.
Yeah, it's where the record label lives. It's on Magic Door Records, which is the same name of the studio where we recorded it that Ray Ketchem runs. And if you like the music, you can just click it and you can buy it, which helps us out. It's also, I mean, as far as everywhere that music streams. We don't have any physical copies, but we're thinking about it. We're going to have a show middle of May, which will be our first real show since the record came out. And I'm thinking of putting, getting 100 CDs to come give away, just for the fun of it. But we'll see. Maybe like you said, maybe there's some rising interest in tangibility. I know there is. People have asked, like, can I have are you going to make? Everyone wants vinyl, but I can't afford vinyl. So
yet, but who knows? Because that's part of that's down to the relationship, isn't it, between people and music? If people want it, then it ultimately that's almost the way that music's going now. If people want the tangible element of it, then and keep asking for it, I think that's where bands have to learn that kind of transaction piece now, and actually need to go to so you put your money where your mouth is and do it. I mean, I've just seen a few weeks ago I interviewed the Sherlocks, and they've been asking for pre-orders of their album. It's coming out in August. So it's quite a long way in advance in terms of pre-order, and I think a lot of bands now, as I look at it, are doing pre-orders of their album well in advance, getting the money in before they have to pay the money out.
Right.
If people are prepared to put their money where their mouth is and say, I want that tangible item.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the way to go. Listen, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us today. If you haven't yet found out about Quiz Show, if you haven't listened to their music, hope this has whetted your appetite. Go and find out about it now. Do check out their Bandcamp. Is it Bandcamp Quiz Show?
Quiz Show Band.
Quiz Show Band. There you go. Quiz Show Band on Bandcamp. Fill your boots. Don't just stream it. Put a bit of money in the coffers and leave a message on there as well. If you would like to see a physical copy, give the band some indication.
Yeah,
that's what you would like to see. Yeah. And if you've got somewhere they can play as well, do let them know, because that could happen in the future. I wish you all the best for the future, sir. And one day I expect to see a book on anthropology and music.
Okay. There are already many of those, but maybe
are many, but maybe from a different take. Maybe you need to get the story together. This rock school thing, because I think that sounds like a great book. I think we'd all love to read the story of that.
That's true.
Until next time, this has been My Music. We've been talking with Chris Matthews this afternoon. If you enjoy this, share it with everybody else. Not because I want people to share it for me, because I want to get the music shared. That's what it's all about. And have a great weekend, everyone. Bye for now.